The sheriff who was supposed to protect children took money to make them disappear. The FBI agent assigned to find them helped cover the tracks, and the only person who tried to stop it was a homeless veteran who had lost everything, including his own daughter 3 years before. When he heard a 9-year-old girl whisper that daughter's name through a ventilation grate beneath an abandoned gas station, his mission changed. What happened next forced the FBI to restructure its entire missing children operation and brought 173 bikers from 4 states to deliver justice the system refused to provide. The photograph shook in his hands like something dying. 2:17 in the morning, November 14th, 2019. Mile marker 113 on Highway 95, Nevada desert, a gas station so abandoned that even the ghosts had moved on. Shane Barrett knelt on cold asphalt beside an ATM machine, tears cutting tracks through 11 months of street grime on his face. The leather bracelet on his wrist caught the flickering fluorescent light, worn, almost smooth, 5 letters barely visible anymore. Lilly. His daughter's name, his daughter's bracelet, the only thing he had left of her. "I'm coming, baby girl," he whispered to the photograph, a 7-year-old with blonde pigtails and a gap-toothed smile, frozen forever in a moment 3 years gone. "Daddy's coming. I'm sorry it took so long. I tried. God, I tried. But I can't anymore. I just can't." He'd spent his last $20 on gas to get here, to this exact spot, this cursed mile of highway where a drunk driver in a Mercedes had erased his entire world in a heartbeat of twisted metal and shattering glass. Tonight was the anniversary. Tonight was the end. He was going to walk into that desert and let the November cold take him. No more shelters, no more dumpsters, no more waking up to a world that had taken everything and given nothing back. Shane started to rise, knees cracking, joints screaming, and a child's voice drifted up from the ventilation grate beneath the ATM. "Please, help. It's dark. I'm so scared." He froze, mid-motion, one hand still pressed against cold metal for balance. That wasn't possible. His mind scrambled for explanations. Hallucination, breakdown, 11 months of malnutrition and despair, finally cracking what was left of his sanity. He'd been hearing Lily's voice in his dreams for 3 years. Now he was hearing it while awake. But the voice came again, real, desperate, young. "Please, I can hear you breathing. Don't leave. They're coming back in an hour. They'll take us away forever. Please don't leave us." Us. Shane dropped to his knees beside the grate, pressing his ear against the metal, cold steel against his cheek, the hum of electronics, and beneath it, crying. "Where are you?" His voice came out cracked, destroyed. "How are you? Under the ground. There's a room. 12 of us. Cages. Please, mister, please." 12 children, in cages, under a gas station in the Nevada desert. Then the voice said something that stopped his heart completely. "Lily? Lily, are you there? Where are you?" His dead daughter's name. From beneath the earth, in the middle of nowhere. You think this is coincidence? What happens next will make you understand. There are no coincidences. Not in this story. "Why?" Shane's voice shattered. He had to start again. "Why did you say that name?" "There was a girl here, before they took her away, named Lily. She told me if I got scared, say her name. She said her daddy was a hero, that heroes come when you call their name. I've been saying it every night for 3 months. Nobody came. Until now." Shane Barrett hadn't truly cried since they lowered Lily's coffin into the ground. Now something broke open inside him, great heaving sobs that tore from his chest like shrapnel. He pressed his forehead against the grate and wept for his daughter, for this nameless child. For 3 years of drowning in darkness, he'd come here to die. But there was a child under the ground calling his daughter's name. "I'm coming," he said, wiping his face with bloody knuckles. "You hear me? Don't make a sound. I'm coming down there, I promise." "You promise?" "I promise." He grabbed the photograph, pressed it into his chest pocket over his heart. "Okay, Lily girl, one last mission, one last time." Behind the station, half hidden by debris and years of desert neglect, he found a rusted service door with a new padlock. His hands found a chunk of concrete. He started swinging, each impact a flash in his mind. Lily at 2, taking her first steps toward him. Swing, Lily at 5, laughing on his shoulders at the county fair. Swing, Lily at 7, lying in the wreckage, blood on her face, her small hand squeezing his. Swing. Daddy, it's getting dark. Don't leave me. Nobody should disappear in the dark alone. Crack. The padlock shattered. Shane pulled the door open. Concrete stairs descended into absolute blackness. The smell hit him. Mildew, sweat, urine, fear. The smell of a place where hope went to die. He pulled out his phone, 4% battery. The flashlight barely cut the dark. He descended 20 steps, 30. This wasn't a basement, it was a bunker. Someone had dug this deliberately, reinforced the walls, created something meant to stay hidden forever. At the bottom, a metal door with a wheel lock like a submarine hatch. He turned it. The door swung open. And what Shane Barrett saw would haunt him for the rest of his life. 12 children, ages 5 to 12, in cages, actual cages like kennels modified with padlocks, a single bare bulb overhead, buckets in corners for toilets, thin blankets on concrete, 12 pairs of eyes, hollow, broken, terrified, turning toward him like flowers toward impossible sun. The red-haired girl was closest, 9 years old, freckles across her nose, eyes that had seen too much darkness but still held a spark of something unbroken. You came, she whispered. You actually came. I came. Shane's voice sounded foreign to his own ears, stronger than it had any right to be. I'm getting you out, all of you. What's your name? Cassie Morgan. They took me 11 months ago. My mom, her voice cracked. My mom doesn't know where I am. She will, I promise. He stepped into the room and heard the click of a switchblade behind him. A massive hand grabbed his collar, slammed him against the wall. A knife pressed against his throat. Cold steel dimpling skin. The man was huge. 6'4", 250, dead eyes, spider tattoo crawling up his neck onto his jaw. That tattoo. The FBI had been hunting that symbol across 4 states for 3 years. It connected this guard to something far larger than one basement. But you'll understand that later. Right now, Shane needed to survive the next 3 seconds. One sound, Drifter, the guard hissed, breath like cigarettes and rot. One extra breath. I start with you, finish with them. Nod if you understand. Shane nodded. The guard smiled. Good boy, now. 3 seconds. That's all it took. Fallujah, 2005. Shane had learned to disarm a man with a knife while taking fire from multiple directions. He'd learned that hesitation meant death. The guard hesitated. Shane didn't. Grab the wrist, twist, step inside the reach, elbow to the temple. The knife clattered. 250 pounds of muscle collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. Cassie stared at him through the bars. You're a soldier. I was. He found keys in the guard's pocket, started with Cassie's cage. The lock clicked, the door swung wide, and a 9-year-old girl who'd been locked in darkness for 11 months took her first step toward freedom. She didn't run, didn't cry. Just reached up and took Shane's hand, gripping like she'd never let go. Don't leave us, you promised. I'm not going anywhere. One by one, he opened the cages. 11 more children emerged, some crying, some silent, all reaching toward him like he was the first solid thing in a world made of smoke. But his eyes had moved to the safe in the corner. He crossed the room, tried the last key on the ring. It opened. Inside, folders. Dozens. Shane pulled them out and felt his stomach lurch. Photographs of children, the ones behind him and others, so many others, names, dates, locations, fake birth certificates, forged adoption papers, destinations, Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia, Middle East, and in a separate folder, sealed with red tape, the names of those who made it possible. Sheriff Howard Thatcher, 22 years in office, Special Agent Neil Foster, FBI Missing Persons Task Force, Judge Warren Crosby, County Circuit Court, 47 children in 3 years. Remember that number, 47? It will return at the most terrifying moment of this story, and when you understand why, you'll never forget it. Elite adoption, that's what they called it. $75,000 per child. Wealthy clients overseas, complete documentation, next flight, 6 hours, private airfield outside Vegas, 12 children in this bunker, the final shipment. Shane photographed everything with his dying phone. 2% now. Page after page, name after name. Then he stuffed the critical documents into his jacket. Okay, we're getting out. Stay close. Not a sound until we're clear. He led them up the stairs, 12 small bodies following single file. Cassie's hand wrapped around his like a lifeline. The night air hit them like a blessing. Cold, clean, free. Shane pulled out his phone. 1%. He dialed 911. 12 kidnapped children. Mile 113, Highway 95. Underground bunker. 1 suspect unconscious. Send everyone. Sir, can you... The phone died. Shane stared at the black screen, then shoved it in his pocket. It's over, he breathed. Help's coming. Cassie looked up at him with ancient eyes. You saved us. For the first time in 3 years, Shane Barrett smiled. Yeah, sweetheart. I think I did. He was wrong. It wasn't over. It was just beginning. 14 minutes. That's how long until headlights appeared on the highway. 14 minutes until Shane Barrett learned that the system he'd trusted once before, the system that let his daughter's killer walk free, was about to betray him again. And this time, the stakes weren't just his life. They were 12 children who'd just learned to hope again. 14 minutes later, 3 black SUVs pulled into the lot, not ambulances, 6 deputies in tactical gear, and stepping out of the lead vehicle, Sheriff Howard Thatcher, gray hair, expensive cologne, eyes like a shark sizing up prey. He looked at the children, at the open service door, at Shane, and smiled. Well, well. Dispatch said a drifter found kidnapped children. He shook his head slowly. But that's not what I see. What I see is a homeless vagrant who broke into private property and abducted 12 minors. He reached into Shane's jacket and pulled out a plastic bag of white powder that absolutely hadn't been there before. 3 ounces of heroin, known drug addict, resisting arrest. He smiled wider. That's 25 to life, drifter. The deputies moved forward. Shane tried to fight, tried to use every skill Fallujah had taught him, but there were 6 of them, and they had batons and tasers and the full weight of a corrupted system. They beat him to the ground, face against cold asphalt, handcuffs biting into wrists, blood in his mouth, and worse, so much worse, the sound of children screaming as deputies loaded them back into a black van. Cassie's voice cutting through the chaos. You promised! You said you'd help us! Please! Her face appeared in the van's rear window, small hands wrapped around the grating, tears streaming. Shane tried to rise, a boot pressed down on his neck. Sheriff Thatcher crouched beside him, lips nearly touching his ear. You're dead, drifter. Tonight you hang yourself in your cell. Your biker friends never know what happened. These children disappear by sunrise, and no one, he pressed harder, no one ever knows, welcome to the real world. No one ever knows. Remember those words. Sheriff Thatcher spoke them with such certainty, he couldn't imagine that in a few hours the whole world would watch him weep on his knees, and those exact words would become his sentence. Shane watched the van pull away, Cassie's face disappearing into darkness. He'd promised her, he'd sworn, and he'd failed. The deputies threw him into a cruiser. Door slammed, engine started. Shane Barrett, who'd come to this place to die, realized death might have been the kinder option. But 500 miles away, in a cluttered apartment above a motorcycle shop in Reno, a phone was about to ring. And the man who answered would change everything. Deputy Owen Brooks sat in his patrol car 200 yards away, hidden behind the collapsed wall of an abandoned warehouse, watching through binoculars that had belonged to his grandfather. 24 years old, son of a schoolteacher, 2 years on the force because he believed, genuinely, stupidly believed, that the badge meant something. Now he watched his sheriff plant drugs on a homeless man, watched 6 deputies beat that man into the asphalt, watched 12 screaming children get loaded into a black van like cargo. His hands shook so badly he could barely hold the binoculars. His breath came in sharp gasps. He was going to pass out. He was going to... No. Owen lowered the binoculars and reached for his personal phone. Not the department-issued one they could track. The old iPhone he kept for emergencies. His fingers trembled as he scrolled through contacts, looking for a number he'd saved a year ago during a routine traffic stop. The man had been polite, respectful, didn't argue about the broken taillight, but Owen had noticed things. The leather vest with patches, the tattoos, the way other bikers who'd pulled over behind him kept their hands visible, followed protocol like men who understood authority from the other side. Iron Horseman, 1% Motorcycle Club. Owen had saved the number, he didn't know why. Maybe some part of him knew this day would come. He found the contact. Connor Walsh. Pressed call. 3 rings. Yeah? Gravel and smoke. A man woken from sleep and not happy about it. Mr. Walsh? Deputy Owen Brooks, Nye County. We met a year ago. Broken taillight. Silence. Then, I remember. You were polite. Didn't search when you had no cause. What do you want, Deputy? Owen's voice cracked completely. They took Shane. Shane Barrett, your former brother, the homeless one. He found children, 12 kidnapped children under a gas station on mile 113. He called it in. But the sheriff's part of it. Planted drugs. Beat him bloody. They're taking the children to a flight. 6 hours. I can't stop this alone. The whole department is corrupt. FBI's involved. There's a judge. I have no one. He was crying now. Couldn't help it. I remembered someone told me once that the Iron Horsemen look after their own. I hoped... Where are you right now? Behind the old warehouse on Route 15. They just left. Sheriff took Shane east. Van with kids went west toward Vegas. Stay there. Don't move. Don't call anyone else. The line went dead. Owen Brooks stared at his phone and prayed he hadn't just made the worst mistake of his life. 500 miles away, Connor Blade Walsh was already moving, 47 years old, president of Iron Horseman Nevada for 12 years. Scars on his face from a bar fight in '93. Scars on his soul from Desert Storm. He didn't ask questions. He didn't hesitate. Shane Barrett had taken a knife meant for Connor's kidney in 2016. Spent 6 weeks in the hospital. Never complained, never asked for anything in return. Just nodded when Connor thanked him and said, "That's what brothers do." Now Shane was in trouble. Real trouble. Connor made 3 calls in 90 seconds. Church, emergency, clubhouse. Now. Bring everyone. Within 40 minutes, the clubhouse was full. 37 Iron Horsemen from Reno. Some had driven an hour. Some had been asleep 5 minutes ago. All of them sat around the wooden table that had seen 100 such meetings, waiting. Connor stood at the head. Didn't waste time. Shane Barrett found 12 kidnapped children in a bunker on Highway 95. He called 911. Sheriff showed up and arrested him. Planted drugs. Beat him half to death. Children are being transported to a private airfield. Sheriff's in on it. FBI's in on it. A county judge is in on it. We have less than 6 hours before those kids disappear forever. Silence. Then, Shane? Homeless Shane? Same one. He was at that gas station to end it. 3 years to the day since Lily died. But he heard a kid crying for help through a vent, and instead of dying, he went down there and found them. Heavier silence. Ratchet, sergeant-at-arms, built like a fire hydrant, spoke up. "What do you need, Prez?" "Bodies, as many as we can get. Shut down that gas station. Recover those children, witnesses, cameras. This thing needs to blow up so big no one can bury it." "That's war with the cops." "No, that's war with corrupt cops who sell children. There's a difference. Can't see that difference. There's the door." No one moved. "How many men?" "Us? 37? Connor took a breath. "But I've made calls." "To who?" "Desert Riders, Phoenix, 40 men." "They'll be at the junction in 2 hours," muttering around the table. Desert Riders and Iron Horsemen had been at odds 15 years, bar fights, 2 dead on each side. And Mongols, Los Angeles, 60 men, coming up I-15 right now. 3 clubs, 20 years of war, dead brothers on every side, and tonight they ride shoulder to shoulder. What made lifelong enemies become allies in one night will make you believe there's still hope in this world. But first, they need to get there in time. Now the muttering became shouting. Mongols and Iron Horsemen had history going back to the 80s, blood feuds, prison betrayals. "Have you lost your goddamn mind?" "Enough!" Connor's voice cut through like a blade. "Listen carefully. I don't care about our history with the Riders. I don't care about our beef with the Mongols. I don't care about patches or territories or who did what to whom in 90 whatever. What I care about is 12 children in a van heading toward a plane that will take them somewhere they'll never come back from." He pulled out his phone, showed them a photograph, grainy, dark, taken in a hurry. 12 children in a bunker, cages visible, eyes hollow with terror. "This is what Shane found. This happens in 6 hours if we don't move." Ratchet stood up. "I'm in." One by one, every man at the table rose. "Then let's ride. Brothers to save, children to bring home. At 4:17 in the morning, 173 motorcycles converged on Highway 95. 37 Iron Horsemen from Reno, 42 Desert Riders from Phoenix, 61 Mongols from Los Angeles, 33 independents who'd heard through the grapevine and showed up because some things are bigger than club politics. They rode in formation, a river of chrome and leather flowing through the desert night. Headlights cut darkness like angry stars. The sound of their engines rolled across the empty landscape like thunder. Men who'd fought each other for decades rode side by side. Men who'd buried brothers killed by the riders next to them nodded in recognition. Because tonight wasn't about old wounds. Tonight was about something bigger. Meanwhile, in the back of a patrol car heading east, Shane Barrett watched his reflection in the window. Swollen face, blood crusted around his nose, one eye completely shut. He thought about Cassie, about her face in the van window, about her screaming his name, about how he'd failed her the same way he'd failed Lily, the same way the system had failed him 3 years ago when a senator's drunk son got a suspended sentence for killing his daughter. The system that let Trevor Osborne walk free after killing a 7-year-old girl. Remember that name? Trevor Osborne. He'll appear again in this story, and what happens to him will make you believe in justice. Shane closed his good eye. He was done. Whatever they did to him in that cell, frame-up, accident, suicide, it didn't matter anymore. He'd tried. He'd failed. The children would disappear. And no one would ever know the truth. But somewhere behind him, 173 engines were roaring through the night, and they were getting closer. At the gas station on mile 113, Sheriff Howard Thatcher supervised the cleanup with the smug satisfaction of a man who'd been untouchable for 22 years. The drifter was in custody, evidence planted, story written. By morning, Shane Barrett would be dead in his cell, apparent suicide, and no one would ask questions. Children were on their way to the airfield, 4 hours until the flight. His radio crackled. "Sheriff, we've got a situation." Thatcher frowned. "What kind?" "Motorcycles, sir, coming from the east, a lot of them." "Define a lot." "I can count at least 100, maybe more, coming fast." Thatcher's smugness evaporated. He knew about the Iron Horsemen, knew they had ties to Barrett. But they were based in Reno, 5 hours away. No way they could mobilize this quickly. Unless someone talked. His eyes scanned the darkness. Deputy Brooks, that snot-nosed kid asking questions, looking at files, too late now. "All units converge on my position. Incoming hostiles." The first motorcycle crested the eastern hill, then the second, then 100 more. They poured over the ridge like a chrome tsunami, headlights turning night to day, engines drowning every other sound. They surrounded the gas station from 4 directions, blocking every exit, forming a wall of metal and leather and furious humanity. 173 motorcycles, 173 men who'd ridden through the night because a homeless brother found children in cages and corrupt lawmen tried to bury the truth. Connor Walsh dismounted and walked forward, stopped 10 feet from the sheriff. "Evening, Sheriff. Nice night for a ride." "This is a crime scene. You're interfering with—" "Where are the children?" "What children? There are no—" "Wrong answer." Connor pulled out his phone. The photograph. 12 children in cages. "My brother Shane took this before your boys beat him bloody. Already uploaded to 7 cloud servers. My tech guy is thorough. Where are the children?" Thatcher's face went pale. But 22 years of lying die hard. "Your brother is a deranged drug addict who—" "Wrong answer." Connor's roar echoed off the abandoned building. "We know about the bunker, the documents, Judge Crosby, Agent Foster, every client who paid $75,000 for a child, the flight leaving in 4 hours. We know everything. Only question now, prison for the rest of your life, or running from men who don't believe in prisons." Thatcher's hand moved toward his sidearm. 173 bikers reached for weapons simultaneously. "I wouldn't," Connor said softly. "My brother's been itching for a fight for 200 miles. "Don't give them an excuse." Thatcher's hand froze. "Now, radio your men, all of them, including those escorting that van. Tell them to stand down, bring those children back, then wait while we call people who actually believe in justice." "And if I refuse?" Connor smiled, the least friendly smile Thatcher had ever seen. "Then we take those children anyway, and we let the internet decide what happens to you." He pointed to a young biker near the back. Tyler, 22, Ratchet's nephew, holding up an iPhone with a glowing red recording light. "Say hi to 14 million people, Sheriff. They're very interested in meeting you." 14 million viewers. That number would double in the next hour. And by sunrise, Sheriff Howard Thatcher's face would be the most hated in America. But he didn't know that yet. He still thought he could win. Thatcher looked around at the sea of angry faces, at the cameras recording every second, at the absolute absence of backup. For the first time in 22 years, he realized he'd lost control. "Radio your men," Connor said, "now, or what happens next makes you wish you'd never been born." Thatcher reached for his radio. And somewhere on I-15, heading west toward an airfield it would never reach, a black van began to slow down. The van carrying 12 children had made it 47 miles west when the radio crackled. Deputy Marcus Webb, 15 years on the force, 3 on Thatcher's payroll, listened to his sheriff's voice and felt his blood freeze. Broken words, panic, nothing like the smooth confidence he'd come to expect from the man who'd made him rich. "All units, stand down. Return to—" Oh God, there's so many of them. Webb glanced at his partner, Frank Salinas. Salinas had gone pale. "What do we do?" Webb looked in the rearview mirror. Through the mesh barrier, 12 children huddled together, faces ghost white, eyes reflecting dashboard lights like trapped animals. 75,000 each. Enough to pay off his gambling debts. But the sheriff's voice sounded wrong, scared, and Webb had heard rumors about what the Iron Horseman did to people who hurt children. "Turn around." "Are you insane? The airfield is finished. Listen to him." Webb gestured at the radio. Shouts, engine roars, someone crying. "That's over. Our only play is go back, say we were following orders, pray they believe us." Salinas hesitated 3 seconds. Then he pulled onto the shoulder, executed a 3-point turn, and started driving east. In the back, Cassie Morgan watched the shift with hope she'd been afraid to feel for 11 months. Something had changed. The men in front were scared now. Scared men made mistakes. The man at the gas station, sad eyes, shaking hands. He'd opened her cage, promised he wouldn't leave. They'd beaten him bloody right in front of her. But maybe, she closed her eyes and whispered the name that had become her prayer. "Lily, send your daddy back, please." At the gas station, the standoff reached its breaking point. Thatcher had radioed his men. The van was returning. But that wasn't enough for 173 bikers who'd ridden through the night on rage and righteousness. "Where's Shane?" Connor demanded. "In custody. County lockup." "Wrong answer. Shane Barrett is in a patrol car somewhere between here and your station, probably bleeding out while your boys figure out how to make it look like an accident. I want him here, now." The sheriff's eyes darted to the wall of angry faces, to the cameras, to the phones broadcasting his humiliation worldwide. 22 years building his empire, now watching it crumble in real time. "Unit 7, he croaked into his radio. "The prisoner, Barrett, bring him back to mile 113, now." Static. Then, "Sir, he's in bad shape." "I don't care, bring him back." Long pause. "Copy, ET at 20 minutes. Connor turned to Ratchet. "Get Doc ready." "Shane needs medical. I want it happening the second he gets here." The next 18 minutes felt like 18 hours. Bikers held positions. Deputies huddled together, disarmed, looking like men who'd realized they'd been standing on the wrong side of history. Tyler kept streaming. 18 million viewers now, climbing every second. Hashtag Nevada Children trending worldwide. CNN had sent a helicopter, news vans converging from 3 directions. Then, the van appeared on the eastern horizon, and behind it, a patrol car. The children came first. The van stopped. Webb and Salinas stepped out with hands raised, terror across their faces. Ratchet and 3 others moved forward, opened the rear doors. 12 children blinked in the sudden light of 100 motorcycle headlights. For a moment, no one moved. Then Cassie Morgan stepped forward, 9 years old, red hair matted. 11 months in captivity had hollowed her cheeks, but she walked with a dignity that made grown men step back. "Where is he?" Her voice was small but steady. "Where's the man who saved us?" The patrol car pulled up. 2 deputies got out, opened the rear door. Shane Barrett emerged. He looked like he'd been through a war. Face swollen, one eye shut, blood crusted everywhere. Hands still cuffed behind his back. He could barely stand. But he was alive. Cassie made a sound, small, broken, and started running. Shane saw her coming. this tiny, fierce girl sprinting toward him with tears streaming down her dirty face. Something happened in his chest, something warm, something bright, something he'd thought had died 3 years ago. The deputies let go. He dropped to his knees. Cassie slammed into him like a small hurricane, arms around his neck, face buried in his chest, crying and laughing and saying his name over and over. You came back. You promised, and you came back. Shane couldn't hug her with cuffed hands, so he just held still and let her hold him. I told you, he whispered. I wouldn't leave. Connor walked over with a key from the disarmed deputies, unlocked the cuffs, and finally, Shane could wrap his arms around this child he'd found in the darkness. 11 other children surrounded them, some crying, some silent, all reaching out to touch Shane, to confirm he was real. 47 seconds. That's how long Shane's heart would stop in the next hour. 1 second for every child stolen over 3 years. 47 children, 47 seconds. You still think that's coincidence? Doc Sullivan pushed through with his medical kit. Shane, let me look at you. I'm fine. Brother, you look like you got hit by a truck. I said I'm fine. Take care of them first, every single one. Then we talk about me. For the next hour, Doc moved among the children. Vital signs, minor injuries, documentation for evidence. Other bikers produced water, protein bars, blankets, supplies grabbed before leaving Reno. 173 hardened men, outlaws, criminals, people society had written off, taking care of 12 traumatized children with gentleness that would have shocked anyone who knew them only by reputation. But Shane's injuries couldn't wait. He'd taken a severe beating, multiple contusions, possible cracked ribs. The swollen eye needed examination, and something was wrong with his breathing. Shallow, careful, like every inhale cost him. Shane, Connor crouched in front of his brother. Hospital, now, not yet. Brother, not yet. Shane's good eye was fixed on the children, on Cassie, who hadn't released his hand since they'd reunited. Not until they're safe, not until I see them go home. They're safe, whole world's watching. Then I need to see it through. I need to watch their parents come. His voice broke. I need to see them go home, Connor. Please. Connor looked at his brother, beaten, broken, barely standing, and saw something he hadn't seen in 3 years. Purpose. Okay, brother. We wait. Then everything went wrong. Some of Thatcher's men, the ones with nothing left to lose, the ones whose names were in those folders, decided not to surrender quietly. 3 deputies who'd been pretending to comply suddenly drew backup weapons. Shots cracked across the parking lot. Bikers scattered, returning fire. Chaos erupted, and in the middle of it all, Shane saw one of the armed deputies taking aim at the van where the children had retreated. At the window, where Cassie's face was pressed against the glass, he didn't think, didn't calculate. The Marine in him, the man who'd carried wounded brothers through fire in Fallujah, simply moved. Shane launched himself across the parking lot, legs screaming, ribs shrieking, every nerve on fire. He slammed into the deputy just as the gun discharged. They went down together. The bullet meant for Cassie tore through Shane's back instead. He hit the asphalt hard, body jerking, blood spreading beneath him like a dark halo. The world went quiet. Then Cassie's scream cut through everything. Shane! Shane! Doc Sullivan sprinted across the lot, sliding to his knees beside Shane's crumpled form. Combat medic, 2 tours in Kandahar. He'd saved lives in worse conditions, but Shane wasn't breathing. No pulse? Doc shouted. Starting compressions? Someone time this. He laced his fingers together, placed his palms on Shane's chest, and began. 1. Cassie pressed against the van window, tears streaming, lips moving in silent prayer. 7. Connor stood frozen, watching his brother's lifeless body jerk with each compression. 15. The bikers had subdued the remaining shooters, but no one was watching that anymore. 23. Come on, brother, Doc growled. Come back. You don't get to die like this, not after everything. 31. Cassie's voice, barely audible through the glass. Please don't leave, you promised. 40. Doc's arms burned. His rhythm never faltered. 45. Don't you dare. Don't you dare! 46, silence. 47, 47 seconds without a heartbeat. By 1 second for every child they'd stolen. 47 children, 47 seconds. The universe keeping score. 48. Shane Barrett gasped. His chest heaved. His eye flew open. His body convulsed as oxygen flooded back into starving lungs. Doc sat back, hands shaking, tears cutting through the grime on his face. "Welcome back, you stubborn son of a bitch." Shane couldn't speak, could barely breathe. But his head turned toward the van, toward Cassie's face in the window. She was sobbing, smiling, both hands pressed flat against the glass. Shane raised one bloody hand and pressed it against the window from the outside. Their palms aligned. And something passed between them, this broken man and this fierce child, that no words could ever capture. The FBI arrived at 5:47 in the morning. Not the local office, not Agent Neil Foster and his corrupted colleagues. These agents came from Washington, dispatched directly by the deputy director after the live stream hit 25 million viewers. 12 black SUVs, 42 agents in tactical gear. Leading them, Assistant Director Patricia Reeves, 20-year veteran, built her career dismantling trafficking networks. She took one look at the scene and started giving orders. Every deputy in custody, full statements from all witnesses, children and protective services within the hour, Sheriff Thatcher in federal detention before sunrise. "Ma'am," one of her agents approached. "Agent Neil Foster's name is in the recovered documents." Reeves didn't blink. "Arrest him. He's at McCarran Airport trying to board a flight to Mexico City." "Then stop him," the sheriff said. "No one will ever know." Watch now how those words destroy him. At McCarran International, Agent Neil Foster was sweating through his suit. He'd gotten the call 30 minutes ago. Operation blown, Thatcher in custody, children recovered. Somehow, a homeless drifter and biker gangs had dismantled in one night what took 3 years to build. He needed to run. "Neil Foster?" He turned. 2 FBI agents, badges out. "Come with us, sir." "On what charge? I'm a federal agent. Conspiracy to commit human trafficking. You're under arrest." They cuffed him right there, in front of the departure gate, in front of 200 travelers and a CNN camera crew. The footage aired live. 28 million people watched a federal agent taken down in handcuffs. But the moment everyone would remember happened back at the gas station. Sheriff Howard Thatcher was on his knees, not by choice. His legs had given out. 22 years of power, gone in one night, and Cassie Morgan was walking toward him. The crowd parted. 173 bikers, 42 federal agents, news crews. Everyone stepped aside as this small 9-year-old approached the man who'd tried to sell her. She stopped 3 feet away, looked up with eyes that had seen too much darkness. "You told us no one was looking." Thatcher couldn't meet her gaze. "You told us no one would come." His shoulders started shaking. "You told us we were nothing, that we'd disappear and the world would forget." He was crying now, great heaving sobs. "You were wrong." She leaned closer, her whisper carried across the silent lot. "They came, from everywhere, and now you sit in the dark, alone, just like we did. Only no one's coming for you. Ever." She turned and walked away. Sheriff Howard Thatcher collapsed completely, face pressed against asphalt, cries echoing across the desert. That moment would be viewed 400 million times. It would become the defining image of the case. A 9-year-old girl walking away from the monster who tried to sell her, leaving him broken on the ground. Justice delivered not by courts, but by a child who refused to be silent. Cassie walked straight to Shane, still on the ground, medics working on him. She knelt beside him, took his bloody hand. "Can we go home now?" she asked softly. "I want to see my mom." Shane looked at Connor. Connor nodded. "Yes, sweetheart," Shane managed through cracked lips. "Let's get you home." Dawn broke over the Nevada desert, painting everything in gold and pink, and the first parents began to arrive. Sarah Morgan had been sleeping on her sister's couch in Reno when her phone exploded with notifications. Her daughter's name, trending worldwide. A live stream showing children being rescued. A gas station on mile 113. She drove 93 miles in 47 minutes, breaking every speed limit, crying so hard she could barely see the road. Now she stood at the edge of the parking lot, held back by a federal agent, screaming, "Cassie! Cassie!" Cassie heard her. 11 months. 11 months of darkness. 11 months of wondering if her mother was still looking, if anyone was still looking. And now her mother's voice, the voice she'd dreamed about every night, the voice she'd been terrified she'd forget, cutting through chaos like a lifeline. "Mom!" She ran, past the bikers, past the agents, past the cameras. Sarah broke through the line. No one tried to stop her. They met in the middle of the parking lot, mother and daughter, colliding with an impact that nearly knocked them both down. Sarah scooped Cassie into her arms. This child who'd been taken, who'd been lost, who'd been gone for 332 days, and held her so tight neither could breathe. "I looked for you," Sarah sobbed. "Every day, every single day. I never stopped. I knew you were alive. I knew I'd find you." "I know, Mom." Cassie was crying too, face buried in her mother's neck. "I knew you were looking. I knew you'd come." Shane watched from 20 feet away. Medics were working on him, IV in his arm, oxygen mask over his face, 2 bullet wounds being stabilized for transport. But he couldn't look away. This was why. This was why he'd gone down those stairs. This moment, this mother holding her child, this reunion he would never get with Lily. Connor appeared at his side. "Brother, hospital, now, you've lost too much blood." Shane nodded slowly. "Yeah, okay." But before they could move him, Sarah Morgan looked up, saw him lying there, saw the blood and the bandages and the single open eye watching her reunion. She set Cassie down gently, walked across the parking lot, stopped in front of Shane Barrett, homeless, shot twice, barely conscious, and went to her knees. "Thank you." Her voice was raw, destroyed. "You saved her. You saved my baby. How can I ever? You don't owe me anything." Shane's voice came muffled through the oxygen mask. "Just take her home. Keep her safe. That's all I need." Sarah Morgan reached up and took Shane's broken hand in hers. "You gave me back my daughter. You gave me back my reason to live. I owe you everything. For the rest of my life." Shane thought about Lily, about the hospital room, the small hand going cold, the last breath, the last words. "She's brave," he said softly. "Your girl. Bravest kid I've ever met. She called out in the dark and I heard her. If anyone saved anyone, she saved herself. She saved all of them. I just opened the doors." Sarah pulled him into a gentle hug, mindful of his wounds. 173 bikers watched in silence. 42 federal agents pretended they weren't crying. Over the next 3 hours, 11 more reunions took place. Parents arriving from 3 states, grandparents, aunts, foster families who'd never given up. Each reunion different, each reunion the same. Tears, screaming, embraces that seemed like they'd never end. Shane watched them all from the back of an ambulance, refusing to leave until every child was claimed. Then the news broke. A television mounted in the ambulance showed CNN, breaking news banner across the bottom. FBI announces additional arrests in Nevada trafficking case. Among those taken into custody, Trevor Osborne, son of State Senator David Osborne. Shane's heart stopped. Not literally this time, but everything inside him went still. Trevor Osborne, the man who'd killed Lily, the man who'd gotten a suspended sentence because his father was powerful, the man who'd destroyed Shane's entire world and never spent a single night in prison. The news anchor continued. Evidence recovered from the trafficking network indicates that Osborne was directly involved in recruiting vulnerable children. His father, Senator David Osborne, has also been arrested on charges of conspiracy and obstruction of justice. Both men are being held without bail. Shane stared at the screen. The photograph they showed, Trevor Osborne in handcuffs, being led into federal custody, his face a mask of terror. 3 years, 3 years of nightmares, 3 years of watching his daughter's killer walk free. And now, Connor climbed into the ambulance, saw what Shane was watching. "You see that?" Shane couldn't speak, just nodded. Justice, brother, finally, for Lily, for all of them. The system that failed Shane 3 years ago, the system that let his daughter's killer walk free, was finally delivering what it owed him. Not because the system worked, but because a homeless man refused to walk away from a crying child. Sometimes justice doesn't come from courts. It comes from the broken people who refuse to stay broken. Shane felt tears sliding down his face, not from pain, not from exhaustion, something else, something that felt almost like peace. "She knows," he whispered. "Lily knows. Wherever she is, she knows justice came." Connor squeezed his shoulder. "Yeah, brother, she knows." The ambulance doors closed, and Shane Barrett, who'd come to that gas station to die, was carried toward a hospital where doctors would spend 6 hours saving his life. He survived. 2 bullet wounds, 3 broken ribs, a punctured lung operating at 60%. Scars that would ache every time the weather changed. But he was alive. Shane woke 3 days later in University Medical Center, Las Vegas. Private room, flowers covering every surface, cards stacked in neat piles, hundreds of them from every state, from 17 countries. But what he noticed first was the hand holding his, small, warm, familiar. Cassie Morgan sat in a chair beside his bed, red hair freshly washed and braided, new clothes that actually fit. Asleep, her head resting on his mattress, fingers wrapped around his like she'd never let go. Shane didn't move, didn't want to wake her, just lay there watching this child breathe. The door opened softly. Connor stepped in, followed by Sarah Morgan and a woman Shane didn't recognize, Assistant Director Patricia Reeves. "He's awake," Sarah whispered. Cassie stirred, lifted her head, saw Shane's eye open. "You're okay." Her voice cracked. "They said your heart stopped. 47 seconds. They said you might not—" "I'm okay, sweetheart. I'm right here." Reeves stepped forward. "Mr. Barrett, I'm Patricia Reeves, FBI. I need to tell you what your actions have accomplished." She opened a folder. "The documents you photographed have led to 23 arrests across 4 states. Sheriff Thatcher, Agent Foster, Judge Crosby, Senator Osborne, his son, all in federal custody. No bail, no plea deals." Shane listened, said nothing. "But more importantly, the network you exposed had taken 47 children over 3 years. Because of your evidence, we've already located 31 of them. Alive, in different countries. We're working to bring them home." 31. 31 children who'd been sold, scattered across the world, now coming home because Shane had gone down those stairs. "Additionally," Reeves continued, "your case has exposed systemic failures in how we handle missing children. The Bureau is implementing complete restructuring of regional operations, new protocols, independent oversight. Dedicated task forces." She closed the folder. "Mr. Barrett, you single-handedly dismantled the largest trafficking network in Nevada history. You saved 12 children directly and gave us the tools to save dozens more. On behalf of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, thank you." Shane looked at Cassie, at this fierce girl who'd called for help through a vent and refused to give up. "I didn't do it alone." "No," Reeves agreed. "You had help. 173 men who rode through the night. A deputy who made a phone call when staying silent would have been safer. And 12 very brave children who survived long enough to be found." She extended her hand. Shane shook it. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now? You heal. The Bureau handles prosecution, and the world remembers what one person can accomplish when they refuse to look away." She turned to leave, then paused at the door. "For what it's worth, Mr. Barrett, I've been doing this job for 20 years. I've never seen anything like what you did. Most people would have walked away. You didn't. That matters. That matters more than you know." She left. Sarah Morgan sat on the edge of Shane's bed. "The Iron Horsemen have offered to pay for your medical care, all of it. Connor said to tell you, brothers don't let brothers drown in hospital bills." Shane almost smiled. "Sounds like him. They also want you back. In the club. Connor said you walked away 11 months ago, but you never stopped being family." Shane looked at the leather vest draped over a chair in the corner. His colors, his patches, the identity he'd abandoned when the pain became too much. "I don't know if I can—" "Shane," Sarah's voice was gentle but firm. "You saved my daughter. You almost died saving her. And you're lying in this bed alone with no family, no home, nothing waiting for you when you get out." She took his hand. "You don't have to be alone anymore. You have brothers who want you back. You have a little girl who won't stop talking about you. And you have me, a mother who will never ever forget what you did." Cassie climbed onto the bed, careful of the tubes and wires, and curled against Shane's side. "Don't leave," she whispered. "Please, you promised you wouldn't leave." Shane felt something crack in his chest, not pain, something else, something that had been frozen for 3 years, finally thawing. "I'm not going anywhere, sweetheart." He looked at Connor, who was watching from the doorway with something shining in his eyes. "Tell the brothers I'm coming home." Connor nodded once. "Welcome back, Thunder." February 2026, 6 years later, Washington, D.C., the United Nations Conference on Children's Rights. Shane Barrett sat in the front row of a massive auditorium surrounded by 173 bikers in leather vests, the same men who'd ridden through the Nevada night 6 years ago. His scars still ached when the weather changed. His lungs still worked at 60%. He still woke some nights in a cold sweat. But he was alive, and he was about to witness something extraordinary. The auditorium held 1,000 delegates from around the world, cameras from every major network, the Secretary General of the United Nations in attendance. A young woman stepped onto the stage. 15 years old now, tall, confident, red hair falling past her shoulders, the girl who'd called for help through a ventilation grate had grown into someone with fire in her eyes and steel in her spine. Cassie Morgan approached the podium, on her wrist, a leather bracelet, worn, faded, 5 letters barely visible, Lilly. Shane had given it to her in the hospital 6 years ago. "My daughter would have wanted you to have this," he'd said. "She believed in heroes. Wear this, and remember, you were brave enough to call for help. That makes you a hero, too." Cassie lifted the bracelet so everyone could see. "This belonged to a little girl named Lily Barrett." Her voice carried across the auditorium. "She died 3 years before I was rescued, 7 years old. A drunk driver killed her, and the system let him walk free because his father was powerful." She paused. Her father was Shane Barrett, the man who saved me, the man who saved 11 other children, the man who brought down a trafficking network that had stolen 47 kids over 3 years. The auditorium was silent. He went to that gas station on November 14th, 2019, to end his own life. He'd lost everything, his daughter, his home, his hope. He was done. She looked at Shane in the front row. But he heard me calling for help, through a vent, in the middle of the desert, at 2 in the morning, and instead of walking away, instead of finishing what he came to do, he came into the darkness to find me. 1,000 people held their breath. He fought. He got beaten half to death. The sheriff tried to frame him, but he didn't give up. And his brothers came. 173 bikers from 4 states, clubs that had been enemies for 20 years, riding together because children needed saving. She held up the bracelet again. Lily Barrett never got to grow up, never went to high school, never fell in love. But her words saved my life, and they've saved 417 other children since then. The number appeared on screens around the auditorium. Cassie's law has been adopted in 14 states. It requires independent oversight of missing children cases, mandatory database sharing, protection for whistleblowers. Because of one homeless man and one crying child, the system is changing. She looked directly into the camera. The Thunder's Children program, founded by the Iron Horsemen and their allies, has helped locate and rescue 417 missing kids. 417 children who were lost in the dark, who thought nobody was coming. Her voice strengthened. But we came. Bikers and cops and volunteers and parents who never gave up. We came because a 7-year-old girl's last words became our mission. She turned to look at Shane. He wasn't trying to hide his tears. "I used to wonder why I survived when so many didn't. Why I got saved when other kids are still missing. I used to feel guilty." Her voice cracked slightly. "But Shane taught me something. Surviving isn't about deserving. It's about what you do next. It's about taking your second chance and using it to help others get theirs." She raised the bracelet one final time. Lily Barrett was 7 when she said nobody should disappear in the dark alone. She's been gone 9 years now, but her words live on. In this bracelet. In the law that bears my name but exists because of her. In every child we've brought home. She took a deep breath. Nobody should disappear in the dark alone. That was Lily's promise. Now it's mine. She looked at the audience. "Who's with us?" The applause started slowly. 1 person, then 10, then 100, then 1,000, then everyone. 1,000 delegates from around the world, rising to their feet, applauding a 15-year-old girl who'd survived hell and turned her survival into a crusade. Shane Barrett stood with them. His brothers stood around him, 173 men in leather vests, tears streaming down hardened faces. The applause lasted 4 minutes. When it died down, Cassie walked off the stage, straight to Shane, stopped in front of him. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." Shane pulled her into a hug. "No, sweetheart. Thank you for calling out, for not giving up, for making me remember there was something worth living for." They held each other while cameras flashed and 173 bikers formed a protective circle around them. Connor Walsh watched with something shining in his eyes. "He came to die," he said quietly, "6 years ago. And now look at him." Ratchet nodded. "Sometimes the broken ones fix themselves by fixing others. That's not fixing. That's becoming who you were always meant to be." Outside the conference center, February's sun was shining. Shane stepped into the light with Cassie beside him, brothers surrounding him. A reporter pushed forward with a microphone. "Mr. Barrett, what do you want people to remember about this story?" Shane thought about Lily, about the gas station, the vent, the voice in the darkness, about 173 motorcycles converging in the desert night, about Cassie Morgan, 9 years old, calling a stranger's name and believing against all evidence that someone would come. "I want them to remember it only takes one person," he said. "One person willing to listen, one person willing to act, one person who refuses to walk away. That's how the world changes. Not through systems, through people making the choice to help when they could just as easily look away." He touched Cassie's wrist, the bracelet with his daughter's name. "My daughter believed in heroes. She believed her daddy was one. I spent 3 years thinking she was wrong, that I'd failed her." He smiled. A real smile, the first that came easily in years. "Turns out she was right all along, not because I'm special, but because I heard a voice in the dark and I didn't walk away." He looked at Cassie, at his brothers, at the cameras broadcasting to millions. Nobody should disappear in the dark alone. That was Lily's truth. Now it's ours. If you made it to the end of this story, if you feel something burning in your chest right now, write these words in the comments. Nobody disappears in the dark alone. That's how I'll know you're one of us, that you understand, that you're with us. The cameras captured the moment. The reporters wrote their stories. The delegates returned to their countries with new understanding of what ordinary people could accomplish. And Shane Barrett, homeless veteran, broken father, reluctant hero, walked into the February sunshine with his family around him. He was still damaged, still haunted, still missed his daughter with an ache that would never fully heal. But he was alive, and he was exactly where he was meant to be. Lily's bracelet caught the light on Cassie's wrist, 5 letters worn almost invisible, but still there, still reminding everyone who saw it. Nobody should disappear in the dark alone, not ever, not anymore.